Welcome, Beena. We greatly appreciate your leadership. As always, we want to begin by acknowledging the original stewards of the various lands we are on. We are also acknowledging our ancestors. We acknowledge all those who toiled without compassion or compensation. We acknowledge all the elders and community stalwarts whose shoulders we stand on as we build, share, and learn together for our collective liberation and sovereignty. So please introduce yourself to our listeners and viewers and tell us about your remarkable work.
Thanks, Sophia. Beena Tharakan. I am a partner and the principal consultant of the management consulting firm, The Sector. We are a consulting firm that focuses on social innovation and integrating that into our systems and look to enablers in the ecosystem, such as social finance, in order to scale the capacity of social innovation ventures or programs, so largely social enterprises, to scale their business models so that those serve as the vehicle to scale their impacts, to serve populations that have been marginalized in the past with the structure of our systems.
That's great. Yeah, we talked a lot about that last week as well. So yeah, thank you for sharing that. What inspires you most about your current work?
What inspires me? Wow. I probably have to go in a bit of my background. I did start out my career in health services management, so working in our healthcare systems, largely as a consultant, an external consultant, as part of the national practices across IBM, Deloitte, and Ernst Young. And through that experience, got to see a lot of the system from the bureaucratic level, so at the policy development level, working with ministries and departments directly at all levels of government too, to the service provider level as well, and really saw how programs and services were delivered to our citizens in Canada. So I got very well oriented to those systems. And so that was great to learn to understand how all the pieces fit together. And once I really grasped that holistic view, I was able then to step back and see, okay, where are there gaps here? And how come there is inequity just kind of integrated into these systems that shouldn't exist? And how can we remove that? And so the concept of social innovation, right about that time, I was identifying those gaps, became aware of social impact investment, social innovation, and really saw that opportunity. And so that's always been the inspiration for my work, to really serve the public, create that equity, utilize the knowledge, skills, networks, background that I've gained over the years to help problem solve in our current structures.
Amazing. That's amazing to hear. I think something that we all have in common, especially those of us who are at the conference, is that we all want to help other people who don't normally get help, who don't typically get to the resources that others do. And so that leads into the next question. What challenges and barriers do you face in your work, and how are you and your team working to overcome them?
Yes, lots of challenges and barriers. I think first and foremost, if you kind of heard the background that I gave, working in long-standing kind of legacy systems and these innovations that are coming about are really kind of a catalyst to change. So, we work with ventures and enterprises to find, where are those cracks in the system that they can plug in, and that can help to serve as the catalyst for change. But as you can see, in terms of maybe I can call it like the distribution of power or the magnitude of the organization, it's very unbalanced. We're working with very large organizations that are used to doing things in a certain way. And these are enterprises or ventures that saw a vision for change and saw where in specific areas where they can enable that change. So really are the ones that are taking that impetus to make those nudges in our system.
All right. So, do you have a set of key priorities in your work right now? Like, what are you guys currently, because what you've said is a lot, and I know there's so many different ways to go about it. But what are you guys focused on right at this moment? Like, what is it that your team is focused on?
Yeah, so I would say in terms of the areas of the system that we're focused on is probably more on the social services side. So creating equity in employment opportunities, education opportunities, upskilling opportunities as well. So just as an example, have worked with employment development, social enterprises, looking how they can expand and grow their model so that they can reach more beneficiaries of the impacts that they've created. And likewise, also for educational kind of ventures that are identifying where there are gaps in our education systems and developing specific programming, particularly gaps that are realized by marginalized populations. So organizations that are working to solve that, helping them specifically, as mentioned before, with their business models, scaling their impacts, exploring other alternate avenues to access capital in order to grow.
Okay, amazing. So I would say that maybe that's your ultimate goal, right? And what does success look like? As much as you're saying, okay, we want these people to come in, be able to access capital, people typically don't get to or don't have the avenues to do so. What success looks like as a whole? We interviewed someone last week, and I think what she said was that ultimately she was looking for her business to not have to exist anymore, because ultimately she would have worked herself out of a job, because now they're opening up spaces and things for people, and people are realizing and they're able to do this on their own, right? So what does it look like, success look like for you, to you and your colleagues?
Yeah, no, interesting concept. I would say maybe it would be very long term in terms of us working our way out of existence. Um, no shortage of problems in the system, but what does success look like? I think, the question around is it access to capital? No, because that's only the enabler. And so I think for me, in terms of a realistic timeline of success, is starting to see our systems change and integrate different types of solutions so they can better serve different types of populations. It's not kind of a blanket approach. We have very specific programming that's going out to specific populations, and that's what's needed to rise the equity in society. So if I start seeing momentum in terms of establishing that equity in all areas, whether it be equity in terms of employment, equity in terms of education opportunities, or even health equity, if I'm starting to see those barriers that are typically in place for some populations break down, I think we're doing a good job there.
Yeah, that's a good point. Okay. So do you have any closing thoughts or calls to action? Is there anything that you think others can do to get involved? How do they get, if they like the work that you guys are doing at the sector, how can they get involved, even on their own levels, at home, within their own organizations or businesses? How can they add to this cause?
Yeah, I think in terms of call to action is, now that the social finance ecosystem has kind of been in its operations, there's definitely a lot of lessons learned, and that can further inform how we can improve the system. So I would say a call to, and I think we saw that last week, starting to collect folks' experience, their learnings, their recommendations, and happy to be part of those conversations or take on conversations to learn from others and feed that into a channel where there can be more of that system view to enable the changes that are required. In terms of working with the sector or being involved, looking for partnerships so that there is collaboration. I don't think there's any shortage of collaboration that's needed. But if there's ways that we can fit, there are specific service offerings that we have that complement others. So we're always looking for those types of partners. And if there's, venture ideas out there that really can use some assistance in terms of being mobilizing into the system, happy to help out any of those ventures as well.
Okay. And how do people get in contact with you?
Well, our website is The Sector Inc. So THESECTORINC.ca, and our contact information is available there. And happy to hear from folks that are interested in collaborating, partnering, or just learning more about our organization.
Okay, that's amazing. We
Mhm.
so appreciate your time and your remarkable leadership, Beena. And as we close, we'll end the way we began this interview by acknowledging the original stewards of the various lands we are on. We acknowledge our ancestors. We acknowledge all those who toiled without compassion or compensation. We acknowledge all the elders and community stalwarts whose shoulders we stand on as we build, share, learn together for our collective liberation and sovereignty. Thank you so much. We really do appreciate you being here.
Thank you, Ifya. Wonderful to be here.